Oh, I didn't see you guys there. I was just drawing beavers on the board here. Oh, there is a point to this. We're going to call this guy William Beveridge. William Beveridge. You guys remember that name? Ooh, this beaver has no nose. Should we give him a nose? I think we should. Yeah, let's give him. Yeah, you get a nose, beaver. All right. So we're going to talk not about William Beveridge, but about something called, that William Beveridge famously said, something called post-war consensus. Post-war consensus. So a consensus is that everybody agrees, and everybody agreed post-war. So what did everybody agree about? Well, that's what we're going to talk about. So as you guys know, between 1930 and 1940, as you know, a major transition happened in the United States and in Canada. That was this transition from classical to modern liberalism. Okay, and that transition was largely because of people's sucky situation in the Great Depression and because of the influences of people like Keynes, as you guys know, who said that the government should steer the economy, and because of policies by Franklin Delano Roosevelt's New Deal, as you know. But I'm also going to say there's one other major influence that transitions us from classical to modern liberalism is because of World War II. So Keynes suggested that the government should spend money to rebuild the economy, to stimulate the economy. FDR put a lot of those ideas into place with some of his New Deal policies. And we, as you watch the John Green video, you probably saw some of those. These kind of stimulus packages or government giving opportunities to people that weren't working to build dams or roads or dig ditches in order to make money, in order to rebuild the economy. Well, I don't think anybody could have predicted the bringing about of World War II, but it was a really good example of exactly what Keynes said. Where did spending come from in World War II? Well, the American government had to build a massive military. That wasn't built by private corporations. That was built by government. Government was pouring billions of dollars into industry to build tanks and bombs and guns and whatever else. And as a result, it gave tons of people work. And the government was highly in debt, but people were working and people were spending money that they were making when they were working. And that helped to stimulate the economy going again. So a lot of people had a lot of trust in the government's ability to drive and direct the economy. People had a deep love for the American government now, especially because people like FDR, who gave us a New Deal, also helped Americans fight in World War II and win in World War II. And so people began to trust the government, and the relationship that people had to the government changed because people now saw the government as not something that was hurting us or being tyrannical over us or taking away our rights. But people saw the government and people like FDR as our friends, someone that's on our side, someone that's getting us through hard times. And so when World War II ended, people all across America and people across Canada and Great Britain and France began to trust more in electing governments that would stand up to provide for the financial needs of the people. Governments that would be more involved in people's economic lives. And so when we talk about post-war consensus, we're talking about the fact that from 1945, from the end of World War II, all the way until the crash of the economy, which took place in the late 1970s, people generally agreed that the government should follow Keynesian economics, right? The government should be more involved in the economy. And even if conservative governments were elected, they still maintained some base level of welfare state economics, where the government would provide for the basic needs of its citizens. It would provide healthcare, education, pension plans, old age pension, all those sorts of things. This is in Canada in this post-war consensus era. This is when Canada built our universal healthcare system under when we saw the Liberals take the ideas of Tommy Douglas and apply them. So this is really what we're talking about when we talk about post-war consensus. It's the dominance of modern liberalism in the mid-1900s. And we're going to see that this system, this modern liberal system, becomes something that is questioned as the economy falls again in the late 1970s and early 1980s with the election of Ronald Reagan. But that's something that we're going to talk about in our next part.